Hi guys, my name is Corey and I own Cottonwood Creek Boars. I run a small herd of weatherbred boars for breeding purposes, showing, and also meat consumption. So I get a lot of questions on fencing, a whole lot of questions on fencing. And I've made a couple of small videos, but I kind of wanted to make one in full just to kind of show you what I do. And just a disclaimer that this is not the way, this is a way, because I know if a fence doesn't hold water, it won't hold goats. So I just want to take a few minutes and show you what I use. So on one side, I run a few acres and have a few different kinds of fencing, but on one side, especially the roadside, all I do is run a 5-wire barbed wire fence with one bit of hot wire on almost the bottom, and then one bit of hot wire across the very bottom. There's a couple very important factors: that each one of these strands, including the hot wire, have to be really tight. The bottom strand needs to be really close to the ground, which is not a traditional way to hang barbed wire fence, but goats will go underneath, so you want to keep it low. Most goats aren't going to go over. Some of your smaller breeds, they jump. Your bigger meat goats don't do a whole lot of jumping unless they're just starving and there's something on the other side. So as far as what kind of fence charger I run, I get a lot of questions about that as well. So I just run a 4-joule. You want to do at least a 4-joule. Anything smaller than that is just not going to give them what the jolt that they need. Anything larger than that is just fine. In my opinion, the bigger the better. They just get really expensive after about 4 joules. If you are doing a solar, mine's not solar, it's hooked up to power. If you're doing solar, solar's fine. It works as long as the sun's out, as long as those batteries are charged. But you get those long winter dreary days and that voltage gets down in those batteries, and you're going to lose power in that charger. So another important factor is I don't have an outdoor charger. There's when you go to buy these things, an outdoor charger is more expensive. There's an outdoor and an indoor. If you do an indoor charger, cover it. It works just fine. I have just the top of mine covered with my gate opener here, so it's held up for a number of years now. As far as keeping the tension on the fence up, like I said, that's a crucial part, because if your goats will slip past sometimes even if they get shocked, if your fence is loose. But if they know they can't get through it, then they simply won't try. So these are a good option right here. These pulleys. I've got a pulley system that goes all the way around and keeps those nice and tight, and you will occasionally have to tighten them down. But working with the hot wire, once your goats are trained and they get hit a couple of times, it only takes a couple of times. After that, they're very weary. Even when the fence is off, they won't go through it. Now, you don't want to leave it off for long periods of time, because they will eventually figure it out. So what I run are these hot wires on T-post. I've got T-posts. They're about 10 feet apart, just like any regular barbed wire fence. Some of these they make that are really long. I like, just for visual effects, so the goat can see it and know it's part of the fence, I like to keep the shorter ones. Now over here, I don't have barbed wire. I run cable fencing, just because this is part of my driveway that goes up to my house. So if they do get out, they're still contained. But my goats are so trained to the hot wire that they don't even try to go through it. But I run 3 strands just with this. But that just lets you know the hot wire works. In fact, on this lot over here is my buck and a buckling. Here's my does. When my does go into heat and my buck knows it, and he knows it quick, he will pace that fence. But he has never ever tried to go through that fence. As big as he is and as strong as he is, he knows not to touch the fence. So a fence tester is always important. So I just got this one, cheap one off of Amazon. You always want to get 9.9. 9.8, 9.9, that maxes this thing out. That's 9,900 volts per charge. And if you, anything less than that, I wouldn't trust. Grounding is very important here because that's how this whole system works. And a lot of people that put hot wire in don't ground well, and they wonder why it doesn't work. So what I do is I run a grounding rod straight out. I use copper. I hammer it in the ground a good 4, 5, 6 feet, as deep as you can get it actually. And then I run another one about 10 feet out into here, do the same thing. Now, there are some people that run even a third out and come out even further out into the pasture. So one thing that you'll want to watch for if you're in a really dry season is if there's not moisture in the soil, you won't get good grounding and the fence won't work as well. So that goes back to this tester. Every once in a while, you'll want to test your fence to make sure everything is good to go, because you will get things like limbs, or I've had deer run through the fence and they'll curl the hot wire up around the barbed wire, and it'll ground it out and it's not working. And you may not know it. I run miles of this stuff, and so you may not know what that there is a problem, because you won't see it until you test it, and then you have to walk the whole thing. A lot of times you'll hear it clicking if you have a grounding issue. As far as jumping wires go, there's only one hot wire that comes off of this charger, and see, it jumps, and so I do jump wires right here and right here. And basically that charges the entire fence. And then underneath the roads or in between gates, I do insulated wire, just direct bury insulated wire, and get them connected. Now, there are people that run different kinds of fencing. I know this, okay? So I'm gonna run over here real quick and show you a different kind of fencing that I have. Okay, a lot of people do this field fencing, and it's expensive. It doesn't go a long way, and you're going to pay over $300 for a roll. But if you're not fencing off a lot of pasture, honestly, it's the way to go. But there's a couple of things that you need to know. One, don't get the regular field fence. You've got to get the goat and sheep fence. It's the squares on it are smaller. I see people all the time with pictures of dead goats because they got their head stuck in the bigger squares, and especially the kids. So that is a big no-no. Always do the smaller fencing, and you'll find it's more expensive than the regular. On your T-posts, you want to have them closer together. I would say a good 5 feet apart, because what happens is these goats, they will rub this fence every day, and they will stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. And eventually you'll find big gaps underneath the fence where they will get out. What I do to prevent that is I run one strand off of my hot wire or off of your fence charger, whatever you're using, and I just run it right along body width, and that keeps them off the fence nice and easy. And you wouldn't even have to have anything very hot, because you're not keeping them out. You're just kind of keeping them off of it, so you can get a cheaper fence. Now, I do want to tell you how good this hot wire actually works. Once your goats are good and trained, I do rotational grazing. So I have different paddocks. I have a paddock here and a paddock here. I got good, nice Bermuda and natural grass, but literally one strand of hot wire separates that pasture from that pasture. And all I do is switch it from that post to that post, and that allows them to either go in that pasture or that pasture. But literally one strand, and they know not to go near it. So that's just my tips and tricks. That, like I said, that is a way, not the only way. If you let